Good afternoon. This is the Elliott Wave weekly update for the Dow Jones 30 being recorded on Monday, May the 26th at 10:15 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 1:15 p.m. East Coast Daylight Time. So, starting here on the Dow Jones cash market, and I'm just going to quickly update that I'm not going to go all the way out to my maximum monthly chart. I'm going to start here on the 5-year weekly chart. So we are still in the process of putting in a minor fifth wave up that would complete minor 5, intermediate 5, primary 5, and cycle 3. So it's still a major mid to longer term top being put in the markets. Now, within that, as I talked about in the S&P and the NASDAQ within the memberships, was that the market still looked like it was going to need additional downside before the minute fourth wave was complete. Now, this was all before, this came about on the extension, came about because the president announced, I believe it was like Thursday last week, that he was going to put 50% tariffs on the European Union because they just weren't negotiating fast enough, or whatever the reason was. Then yesterday, on Sunday, he comes out and says, well, I'm going to delay those until July the 9th or July 1st instead of June 1st. So as the markets reopened in Globex yesterday, we had a very strong rally, which has continued right through the balance of the Globex session for today. Now, so what we're seeing is that the Dow futures market closed up 457 points. And that's just on yesterday to this morning's Globex session. So we get Globex opening up again at this afternoon, 3 p.m. on Pacific, 6 p.m. on the East Coast. And it should continue, I believe, to rally in anticipation of tomorrow's opening here in the U.S., being today's holiday. So a lot's going on. So what that has done, actually, and I'm going to show you here, because it was the Dow that gave me that first clue. And so I'm going to go through this. We're within minor wave 5. This is the cash that's also going to show up in the futures market. We're in minor wave 5 up. It's going to consist of 5 waves of minute degree. Guess what? I think we now have 1, 2, 3, and 4 done. So we're in that final fifth up. Now, this is where it really gets interesting, because the big question is going to be, well, what's going to stop this rally? And well, I'm going to tell you what's going to pump it up right now is the fact that we're still battling and going back and forth on the tariff wars, on the trade wars. When are the tariffs going to apply? What are they going to be? They're going to go lower. They're going to go this. Who's negotiating? Who's not negotiating? Et cetera, et cetera. So we go on the whim of the president when he comes out and he talks. I'm going to put the tariffs on. Oh, I'm going to delay them. Oh, we're going to put them on pause. Oh, we're going to do this. And every time we get this big reaction on the market. So that keeps volatility higher. Now, I'm kind of suspecting, as we are likely going to see, volatility take a nosedive. Again, get back below 20. And that's going to push this market back into this risk-on type trade. Not confirmed just yet, because as it was left on Friday, the options were still all below volatility triggers. So, but I believe we're going to retake a lot of those volatility triggers tomorrow as the SPX opens. And then, of course, the ES and the NDX and the Qs and the spiders and et cetera. As all of that reopens, I believe we're going to push back above volatility triggers, which again is going to get a little bit harder sells in volatility in the VIX. Now, I'm not expecting this to drop back down to 14 to 18. I mean, we saw it below 18, and then it produced a reaction in the VIX to bring it back up and out, and then the news on the tariffs pushed it back up to, I believe it was 22. So that still is going to remain in flux and in play. But in the interim of while we're waiting this additional month for what's going to happen within the European Union, we still have the 25% tariffs that are going to be placed on the iPhone, on Apple's iPhone. So what could put a little bit more into this is if we get any news on that, like, oh, well, okay, I'll back off of that one too. But no word on that. So that's still kind of in place. Still in place are the downgrade of U.S. debt, of the United States credit rating. So that's still out there and in play with no mention from the executive branch, no mention at all. But nonetheless, it is real and it's out there. And so we'll be getting to continue to look for what happens in the dollar, what happens in the 30-year and the 10-year bond and note. Now, back to the Dow. I'm going to bring this down, and now let's take a look, because I believed at the time, last time when I was looking at it, we were still within this fourth wave going down. And I thought that because we only really had one day of trade with that news of 50% tariffs on Europe, 25% tariffs against the iPhone. And so we saw a very strong reaction from the market, where on Friday, we were down quite heavily prior to the opening, but managed to cut that pretty much in half by the close. So, and so that actually was pretty good. And the expiration came and went for Friday. Friday was the May monthly. So now we're working through the balance to see how we're going to come out for May 30th. But that's where the switch came. So again, here was wave one, still is wave one. And I thought, okay, that comes in, that high is in the cash market, 40,778. Well, we got down as low on Friday as 41,354. Now, this prior I had also needed to include like the 1%, the 100% where the C wave would be 100% of wave A. So that was the ticket. And you see it was 40,896. And so we were just getting real close to here. But over in the futures market, it would have dropped below. So wave 4 would have overlapped wave 1. So I started to look at this and I'm like, wow, okay. So is the Dow beginning to signal and tell me something that I'm not seeing in the other markets? And that was that the possibility that my wave 4 was done. So going back to the cash market and the Dow, notice that the 0.618, which is the third most common for a C wave. First is equality, second is 1.618, and the third is 0.618. Well, then I took a look at this, and that low was 41,354. This 618 was 41,353. I thought, well, holy cow. You have to have hit that. Well, actually, it was 333, excuse me. Pretty much hitting it on the nose. That's my point. And so I thought, okay, that works. I stuck the 4 there, ABC, and now I'm also including, minute wave 5. Minute wave 5, the most common is that minute wave 5 will be equal to minute wave 1. Well, minute wave 1 was that big gigantic rally that we had, that the Dow ended up over 3,000 points higher when the president was pausing the original tariffs of 145% against China. Well, we're going to put a pause to those. And also announced to, I guess, in inner circle, I think it's time to buy. Boom. Dow up over 3,000, S&P up over 300, NASDAQ over 2,000. Russell, I don't remember, but the Russell also, of course, was huge. Now, so when we have to measure out 5 equals 1, boom, 100% new all-time highs. Well, that's what I'm looking for in minute wave 5, and as I'm looking for in minor 5. So, but we had the minor 5 next line up at 1.618 at 46,183. Well, now I got another one, 100%, 45,581. Now, mind you, we do need to get above 45,000. The existing high is 45,054. Might be a little bit higher there, 45,073. Okay, that's the existing all-time high. So 45,581 works, and it's 100%. 5 equals 1, that works. If we get 5 waves up, that'll be clean, and it will point to that we're finishing here. Next level's up, 46,183, but 1.618, where 5 would equal 1.618, comes in at 48,182. Now, the one that could actually still work, and I'm just going to include it, I didn't want to actually show it, but I will now, is 618, which is 43,975. Now, if I get 5 up and we end there, it's going to be a failure. But what could create that failure is something else coming out of the White House, something else tipping this back into negative. And of course, it's out there. It can happen. Oh, they said something wrong, and they didn't do this, or whatever the situation may be, and those tariffs are going to be 75%, or whatever the situation could produce. But it can happen, or something else within the trade wars comes to the forefront, or something else in terms of the bonds getting hit hard comes into focus. So again, a lot of things can happen. So I'm going to leave this on with the premise that if that's what it is, and we get up there and nosedive, I'm going to leave it in that it's not that this is all wave A and this is going to be B and then we're dropping into C. I think at this stage, I would mark it pretty much as a failure. I'm not looking for a failure. I am looking for this market to probably get above 45,000 in the Dow. That's what I am looking for, as well as new highs in the S&P and new highs in the NASDAQ. And the Russell, I probably need to go back and redo that as well. And I should, because it's been requested. So I will look to try to get that done. Okay, so we're looking for now, once the Dow gets open again, well, I am on the daily. So let me just open this. You can see all moving averages here basically are flat. The 20, the 15, the 200 are totally flat and going sideways. Above 51,353, but flat as you can be. So that continues to provide the support should we decide not to go up. Additionally, right now, from where the futures market closed, well, I'm looking for the cash market to gap up tomorrow morning. That's all things remaining equal here in terms of the market continuing to find its stability and just continue to push higher. Even if it opened unchanged, the cash should gap higher. So I'm looking for that to kick in. And we're going to be looking for 5 waves of minuet degree to complete minute wave 5. That's the gig. All right, let's go over and take a look at the YM, which did trade. And same deal. Now, the YM is, again, a little bit different, and that we got this possibility that we got a little bit of a diagonal running here for wave 5. And if that's the case, I'm looking for this thing to cruise beyond this 100% for minor wave 5. So if it's going to be a diagonal, sometimes that fifth will go up and puncture the top, reach, and then come back down. This is a daily chart. So is that possible? Yes. Or it's actually just going to be a straight ABC. Excuse me, a straight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, but I'm just going to keep it all together here. Now, here as well, we had 0.618 for that fourth wave. Let me bring this down to my hourly. We can take a look inside. We've got the A, the B, and then we did a C. And 618 was 41,380. It dipped down on Friday to 41,236, but also on Friday managed to close above all of that. Where did we close? Right here. We closed right here. Ran up, got back above that resistance or support, and kind of now has gone up again, giving us a little bit like 1, 2, 3, a little 4, maybe we get a 5 to start this afternoon's Globex session, and then pull back a little bit. So maybe we'll get that minuet wave 1 of minute wave 5, possible. So again, connecting the dots now. What are we looking for to upside? Here I put the 100%, 45,672. But let's go one more. And I want to put that back up so that we're being all things equal here. And so the 618 is 43,976. I'm not looking for that because that's the first equality, is the first most common. Second is 1.618, which is 48,415. We have, in terms of the minor fifth wave, 100% at 43,341, which may provide some resistance on the way back up, as well as 43,976 may provide some resistance in a continuing rally. So maybe this will be wave 1, and then we get a 2, and this could be wave 3, or again, wave 1 might find these resistance levels to complete, and I'm talking about minuet wave 1. Or it could be a part of wave 3. So again, first line, 45,672 in the futures market, new all-time high, if we get there. And I'm looking for 5. So that's the other key here. 5 waves. That's what I'm looking to form. Minute 5 has to be 5 waves. So unless indeed this is a diagonal, then we do have the possibility of these lower levels, and it ends in a failure. But I'm not thinking that. I'm not thinking that. We also have NVIDIA's earnings on Wednesday. And if any of that, and the only thing is there, we still have not heard anything on those tariffs for the chip makers sending things abroad, i.e. to China. So we still have a lot of unknowns sitting out there waiting for what's going to be the effect, et cetera. And so a lot of this is going to be determined on that. So either we're going to get something really pleasing from NVIDIA, that they're going to be okay, and their profit line is just going to be dented by having to pay these taxes, these tariffs. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see how all that comes out. Or again, how Apple starts to react. What about the balance of our stocks? Will they start to come back? And so this is going to be important because they didn't end that way. They were all down, and then the closes, after the close, they got pushed a little bit lower. This is going to be, tomorrow morning. We're going to see what happens to these stocks. Well, actually, the stocks do start trading, I think, about hour or 2 after Globex starts. I believe our equity markets do reopen. We'll see. But here we have it. Now, back in the daily, same deal. Look at the moving averages, flat by flat by flat. So coming down, I'm going to go to the 1-hour chart. Same deal. 1, 2, maybe that's the 3. We get a little 4. We get a 5 to complete minuet wave 1. Come back in a 2, and we rally again. So from what I thought was going to be an extended 4th wave that still needed more downside, and that actually put pressure on this bigger picture in that, well, was this, actually I need just the daily. I can just do it all in the daily. Could this have been minute wave A of minor 4? This would have been minute wave B of minor 4, because I still was like, okay, what happens if the market breaks below minute wave 1? And here it got close. It got close. So that's what raised my awareness. I'm like, look how flat that little line is, just at the absolute little tiny angle higher. There was not a lot of room in the future with that low being 41,236 and this high being 41,140. So in essence, I got 4 points. Do I call it? Do I say no after it popped off? And I mean, I could come down and I could do this. Now I got it lower, and that one's not busting over it. I know you might want to call it cheating, but when I look at it and I get the rally coming off of it, I'm like, yeah, well, I may have to accept it. So that's one of those calls. I am not necessarily all wrapped up in like, oh, 4 points over, even though I do hold pretty strongly to the wave one cannot overlap wave four. It didn't do it in the cash. It's doing it in the futures market. So there's a lot of if, ands, or buts that kind of come into here. But I'm putting that minute 4 there. And we're looking for that minute 5th wave. And I'm looking for this rally to now continue. All right, so that is going to be it for the Dow. I'm going to get this posted. And so the next weekly will be, of course, next week. Also, I am going to move forward. So keep an ear out for when I'm going to reorganize the YouTube memberships. And it will be one size fits all. In other words, it'll be one price for everything I publish will be open to all members. And so, and I'm still pretty much looking at that price being $1 a day. And we have on average 20 trading days a month. So it would be $20 a month for everything that I publish, which is the gold, silver, platinum, the Dow, the Russell, the bonds, everything, the S&P, everything gets published and open to everybody. And then plus access to, there would be an additional cost, but to build up either a Discord room, or I will just have it as a live stream somehow where we are gathering. And I basically trade either the S&P future or the NASDAQ future in the morning, but we'd be there. So we'd be able to go over many things prior to the market opening and then be able to engage with one another as we begin to trade. All right, that's to come. And so I'll be trying to put that together. All right, so I'll get this out. And again, next week for the next update on the Dow.